Hello all, Sique here, and welcome back on the path to Unpunishable. Today we are starting with card 11, the Unsent message. But before we do that, I want to thank you for those who have held on with the Kickstarter, and for those who haven't pledged or backed, or like to do that again. The link for it will be on the description on YouTube and in the article in the Substack. I hope you consider it. And now, we're going to talk about the unsent message. Yeah. I called it the unsent message because I wanted to talk about closure, but I ended up thinking more about why and the answer to why, and that how it can be the greatest motivator or the biggest block you will ever face, right? Knowing why something matters, why it must be done, why something is no longer for you, why a boundary needs to exist. Why are you choosing a different direction? That'll bring clarity, right? And that kind of why will always steady you. But there's another why that traps people for years. I know, I have. Why did it happen like that? Why did I have to lose? Why me? Right? And that why sends you on a mission, sends you on a series of side quests, right? And then you search for the answer in conversations, texts, memories, and imagined confrontations. You rehearse what you're going to say. You imagine the moment when they finally see it. And then you convince yourself that if you just can explain it the right way, if they'll just sit down, they will understand, take responsibility, and everything will be resolved. And you can go on doing the things that you were placed on earth to do. What you think you need is closure. And I put that word in quotes in my notes, and even though you will never see my face recording this, I have it in the air. Because what people often mean by closure is accountability, responsibility, and repair. And the truth of that is brutal but clean. You will never get it. They do not see what they did is wrong. And there's nothing you can say that will make them see it. Sometimes, they will offer just enough acknowledgement to keep you engaged, placing the real answer behind some kind of emotional paywall, like they're the New York Times or some shit. They give you a fragment and then ask you to keep chasing, right? It makes them feel important that you chase. It makes them feel important that they can feel and they can tell others that you yearn and crave them. Then, when you ask again, they're all like, why don't you just let it go? And when there is no answer that satisfies, that same why, turns inward. And it becomes a weapon that you punish yourself with. Why? Because you already know the truth. But accepting it feels like a loss all its own. Because it is. And that's why this card matters. Because clarity and closure are always an internal and inside job. There's no external conversation that can give you peace if you're still bargaining with what reality is. If you're still bargaining, trying to negotiate the truth of your situation, there's no external conversation that will give you peace, that will give you joy, that will settle you. Closure is not about letting something drop. It's about fully seeing what happened, naming the damage, and deciding what you will protect going forward. That process requires honesty without the fantasy portion. It means accepting that something you wanted to heal will never match the vision you had for it. It means grieving not just what happened, but what you had hoped would happen if everyone behaved differently. Not necessarily better, but just differently. The unsent message is not avoidance, it is discernment. It is recognizing that some conversations cost more than they give, and that you are allowed to stop paying for answers that are never going to come. Years ago, I was talking to someone I thought I trusted. Well, I trusted them at the time. I was crying hard, sliding down the wall, punching air in frustration over a situation that just wouldn't resolve. For love or money, couldn't resolve it. And she listened quietly and then asked me a question that I did not want to hear. She asked me, have you considered that the answer will not satisfy you? I hated that fucking question. I hated that shit. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. I didn't want to hear that shit. I didn't want to hear it. I wanted the person I was talking about to see the damage and repair it. I wanted to fix what was broken because the relationship mattered to me, and I believed in what we could build. I didn't want to accept that who I was and what I was offering was less valuable to them than the cheap dopamine they got from avoiding accountability. I didn't want them to face the consequences of their own choices. I knew the inevitability of it. I knew the stakes involved. I know what was going to be lost. And I knew what was lost, once it was lost, would never be regained. They would never be able to get it again. They never did take accountability. And the inevitable happened anyway. Even with all my hooping and hollering. And I was forced to face the real feel underneath all my questions. Number one, the fact that it was never my responsibility to fix them. I couldn't even if I wanted to. That was just outside of my skill set. More accurately, in this case, it was something I was not allowed to fix. And the closure that I was chasing was actually about repairing the voices inside me that said that I was only valuable as long as I was useful. And there's nothing an external conversation could fix. It's not something an external conversation could fix. And that realization hurt more than the original loss. That was the thing that really messed me up for years. It was realizing if I wanted real peace, real clarity, and real closure, I had to build it myself. Especially if there was no one else who was willing to help me. And I wasn't sure I could do that. Turns out I could. Spoiler, I'm doing it now. So what does this look like through the lens? Well, empathy understands why you wanted to explain yourself, why you wanted to answer to that why. It honors the desire to be seen, understood, and treated with care. But truth reminds you that the explanation does not change a heart that refuses to listen. No amount of clarity can reach someone committed to misunderstanding you. Kindness teaches that silence can be a boundary. It is not a punishment. It is not cruelty. It is self-protection. I won't say that many more times before this project's over. Anti-greed reframes attention as a resource. Your attention is valuable and is a currency, and you are not required to spend it chasing answers that will drain you or trying to get through emotional paywalls. And joy arrives quietly when you stop performing for understanding and start choosing yourself and your own peace instead. So, what does this card teach you? It teaches you that you're not every message that needs to be sent. That's not who you are. Some messages only exist to help you organize your truth. Some letters, like that one the therapist tells you to write to that person and fold it up, and you think it's hokey as shit, but it actually works really well. Some letters like that, they need to be folded, placed somewhere safe, and never delivered. You're not obligated to make people comfortable with your clarity. You're not required to educate those who benefit from misunderstanding you, because what they want is your attention. They want your attention so they can brag about how they have your attention, and they're willing to fuck you over and fuck you up to do it. Closure does not come from their apology. It comes from your decision to stop waiting for that shit. For real. When you stop chasing the answers, that's how you reclaim your energy. You redirect it towards your own healing, towards your own growth, and to your own future. The silence, it isn't defeat. You didn't lose. It's just over. You have nothing else to say. And that's why on this path, the path to Unpunishable, the Unsent message is a turning point. Because punishment culture teaches you that silence is weakness and explanations are owed. That the people that hurt you, they are entitled to your explanation about why you're walking away from them. But being unpunishable teaches you that clarity does not require witnesses outside of yourself. You're the only one who has the witnesses. You're allowed to know the truth without convincing anyone else of it. It can just be you and the Lord. You're allowed to move forward without anyone's permission or saying shit to anyone. You can do that Irish goodbye. Right? Like they say, it's not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. You can just jet. You can just push off. And the path doesn't reward endless processing. I hate this line. But it doesn't. It doesn't require a bunch of overthinking. It rewards initiative and then integration. Kind of getting all your answers in, getting everything on one accord, and going forward. The unsent message. The unsent message is the point where you realize they've run out of chances. Well, maybe if I no. Just let it sit there. Just let the message sit there. Because we both know you're doing it for yourself. And with that, I want to leave you with the closing image of that same letter, that same message, that same text, that same DM. Imagine that message and everything you want to say out in full. Everything that you wanted to say, everything that you wish had happened is there. Imagine it. And you wrote it down. In some parts you illustrated it. In some places you put links to movies. Everything you need to say, wanted to say, and everything you wanted to feel when they responded positively, or at least differently, is in it. Now imagine just closing the document. We're not going to ask if you saved it. You're not going to worry about that. You're just going to close it. Because you're done with it. And it's complete. Artists don't finish their art. They abandon it. And that's the truth. And sometimes that's the right move. May you trust that understanding does not require delivery. May you choose peace over being believed. May you keep your clarity for yourself, because the message does not need to be sent. You've already received it. And with that, I thank you again for being on this path with me. And I hope you'll join me for card 12, The Rip. Talk to you soon.